There are seasons in a woman's life where silence speaks louder than questions, where time passes and people begin to whisper, assume, conclude, and judge, and she herself begins to wonder in the quiet of the night, Lord, why am I still here? Hear me carefully. Singleness is not a cause, and delay is not denial. Many times what looks like abandonment is actually divine protection. There are women who are single for a long time, not because something is wrong with them, but because something precious is upon them. You must understand this. God does not rush valuable things. Anything God intends to last, He first prepares in secrecy. There are assignments that cannot survive emotional immaturity and destinies that will collapse under the weight of wrong companionship. So God, in His mercy, withholds certain relationships until the woman becomes strong enough to carry both love and purpose without losing herself. Sometimes a woman is single for a long time because she has depth, and depth intimidates shallow intentions. Not every man has a capacity to steward a woman who thinks deeply, prays seriously, loves intentionally, and carries vision. So heaven delays access, not because she's unworthy, but because God is filtering. It is painful, yes, but it is intentional. God would rather explain your tears than repair your destiny. There are women who are single because God is healing them from battles no one saw, battles that taught them discernment, wisdom, restraint. Some women were once too giving, too trusting, too available, and pain became their teacher. So God steps in and says, sit with me. Let me rebuild your sense of worth. Let me reintroduce you to yourself. Because if healing does not come before love, love will reopen wounds instead of closing them. Understand this mystery. Some women are single because they are answers to prayers they have not yet met. And timing is everything. When God is aligning purpose, He also aligns people. A mismatch in timing can destroy what was meant to bless. So God waits. He watches. He works quietly. And while people mock the waiting, heaven celebrates the process. There are also women who are single because they refuse to settle. And hear me, this is not pride, this is wisdom. Not every proposal is a promise. Not every attention is intention. Some women chose loneliness over dishonor, peace over chaos, growth over distraction. And though the wait feels long, eternity will vindicate that decision. You never lose when you choose alignment over appetite. Let me say this with clarity. Being single for a long time does not reduce your value. Time does not depreciate purpose. A woman is not defined by who chose her or delayed her, but by who she becomes while waiting. God often uses seasons of singleness to sharpen discernment, deepen prayer, strengthen character, and solidify identity. Because the greatest danger is not being alone. It is being attached to someone who disconnects you from God. There are women whose singleness is a calling for a season to build, to heal, to rise, to know God beyond titles and roles. And when that season has completed its assignment, God does not need reminders. He is faithful. He brings people suddenly, swiftly, accurately, but only after the woman has learned not to beg for love, but to stand in worth. So if you are a woman who has been single for a long time, do not let bitterness replace faith. Do not let comparison steal your joy. Do not let society rush what heaven is perfecting. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not lacking. You are being prepared, and when the time comes, you will not only be chosen, you will be sustained, because God does not just give relationships, He gives understanding. And when He finally connects you, you will look back and realize that every delay was mercy. Every tear was instruction. And every lonely night was God teaching you how to stand whole so that love would add to you, not complete you. Many people misunderstand delay and immediately interpret it as rejection. But in the economy of God, delay is often a language of protection. There are moments when God withholds what you desire, not to punish you, but to preserve you. Especially in the area of relationships, speed is dangerous when purpose is involved. God sees beyond emotions, beyond appearances, beyond present loneliness. He sees outcomes, futures, consequences, and generations. So when He delays access, it is because He has already already seen what premature access would destroy. There are women who would have entered relationships that look promising on the surface but carried hidden weights capable of dismantling their peace, faith, and destiny. God, in His mercy, steps in as a gatekeeper. He blocks parts that look attractive but are spiritually incompatible. And because humans often value immediacy over longevity, the delay feels painful. But heaven measures success by sustainability, not speed. What God intends to last must first survive testing, alignment, and timing. Protection does not always feel like safety. Sometimes protection feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like watching others move ahead while you remain still. Sometimes it feels like unanswered prayers. But many of the prayers God does not answer immediately are the ones that will later require deliverance. There are connections that come with smiles today, but tears tomorrow. There are relationships that would have required years of recovery had God not said no in advance. So He delays not because He enjoys your waiting, but because He values your wholeness. You must understand that God is not only protecting you from people, He's also protecting people from you when the timing is wrong. A woman can be full of potential, love, vision, and strength. But if she enters a relationship before understanding her value, she may turn gifts into sacrifices and purpose into compromise. So God delays until identity is settled, until boundaries are formed, until discernment matures, because love without wisdom becomes bondage. There are seasons when God allows silence so that emotional dependency can die. Because if a woman's sense of worth is tied to being chosen, she will accept anything that resembles attention. Delay trains the heart to find security in God, not validation in people. It teaches patience, self-respect, and inner stability. And once these foundations are laid, the woman becomes dangerous to unhealthy patterns. She no longer begs for love. She discerns it. Divine delay also exposes counterfeit intentions. Not everyone who approaches you has the capacity to stay. Time reveals motives. Those driven by lost convenience or ego often cannot endure waiting seasons. So as God delays, He filters. He allows those who are not serious to walk away on their own. What remains after delay is often what is genuine. That is why rush relationships often skip discernment and later discover realities they should have seen earlier. There are women who were saved from lifelong sorrow simply because God closed doors they cried for. And years later, when they look back with clearer eyes, they realize that what felt like heartbreak was actually rescue. Delay saved them from abuse disguised as love. Delay saved them from limitation disguised as commitment. Delay saved them from losing their voice, their calling, their joy. But in the moment, it felt like God was absent when in truth, He was actively involved. God also uses delay to synchronize destinies. Relationships are not only about affection, they are about alignment. Two people can love each other sincerely and still destroy each other if timing is wrong. So God works on both sides, shaping character, correcting mindset, aligning purpose, and until both parties can meet without shrinking each other, heaven waits. Because God would rather delay union than repair damage. Protection is proof of value. You do not heavily guard what is cheap. You protect what is precious. If God has guarded your heart through long seasons of singleness, it is because He knows what you carry. He knows the cost of misuse. He knows the damage of wrong hands. So He hides you not to punish you, but to preserve you. And while people measure life by milestones, God measures it by mastery. Delay refines perspective. It teaches a woman that love is not an escape from life, but a partnership for purpose. It breaks the illusion that marriage is the solution to emptiness. It reveals that peace is internal before it is shared. And once this understanding is formed, the woman no longer fears waiting because she understands that whatever God delays, He's protecting. And whatever he protects, he intends to preserve with intention and accuracy. Singleness is often misunderstood as emptiness, but in the wisdom of God, it is a classroom, a refining ground where identity is formed without distraction. There are things God can only teach a woman when no other voice is loud enough to compete with his. In seasons of singleness, the noise reduces, the applause fades, and the soul is invited into honest conversation with itself. This is where healing begins. Not the dramatic kind, but the deep, quiet restoration that rewires how a woman sees herself, love, and life. Many women enter relationships carrying unresolved wounds, hoping love will be the medicine. But love is not designed to heal what truth has not addressed. So God withholds relationships to first confront the heart. He allows memories to surface, patterns to be recognized, and emotions to be processed. Because unhealed pain does not disappear in marriage, it multiplies. Singleness becomes the season where God says, let us deal with this now, so you do not bleed on someone who did not cut you. The preparation is not always visible, but it is always intentional. In singleness, God builds internal strength. He teaches a woman how to stand without leaning, how to be whole without being held, how to find joy without being chosen. This independence is not rebellion against companionship. It is insurance against dependency. A woman who has learned to be complete in God will never beg for love, tolerate abuse, or shrink to be accepted. She enters relationships from abundance, not lack. There is also the preparation of discernment. Singleness sharpens perception. When emotions are not constantly entangled, clarity increases. A woman begins to see patterns in people, red flags in conversations, inconsistencies in intentions. She learns the difference between attention and commitment, affection and responsibility, charm and character. This wisdom is often born out of solitude because silence has a way of revealing truth that noise hides. Healing in singleness also involves redefining worth. Society often teaches women to measure value by relationship status, but God redefines worth by identity. In the absence of romantic affirmation, a woman is forced to ask deeper questions. Who am I beyond being desired? What do I carry beyond what I offer someone else? These questions, though uncomfortable, are liberating. They detach identity from approval and anchor it in purpose. And once what is internalized, love becomes a choice, not a need. Singleness also prepares a woman for partnership by exposing her weaknesses. Loneliness reveals impatience. Waiting exposes insecurity. Rejection uncovers fear. But these revelations are not condemnations. They are invitations to growth. God uses the mirror of singleness to show areas that need strengthening before union, because marriage does not hide flaws. It magnifies them. So, God trains character in private before allowing responsibility in public. There are women who discover their voice in singleness without the pressure to please or adjust. They learn to speak honestly, set boundaries, and say no without guilt. This is crucial preparation. A woman who cannot define herself alone will lose herself in togetherness. So God teaches her to honor her convictions, protect her space, and respect her own limits. These lessons become the foundation of healthy relationships later. Singleness is also a season where purpose takes shape. Time that would have been divided is now concentrated. Vision becomes clearer. Calling becomes louder. A woman begins to invest in growth, skill, faith, and direction. This is not accidental. God often establishes assignment before attachment, because when purpose is unclear, relationships become distractions. But when purpose is defined, relationships become support systems. Healing continues as comparison dies. Watching others move ahead forces a woman to confront envy, impatience, and doubt. But as she surrenders these emotions to God, something shifts. She begins to trust timing. She learns that different parts do not mean inferior parts. And in this surrender, peace is formed. Not the peace that comes from having everything, but the peace that comes from trusting God with everything. By the time preparation is complete, the woman is no longer desperate for change. She's stable, rooted, and self-aware. She understands that love is not meant to rescue her from herself, but to walk with her as she fulfills purpose. She becomes selective not because she's proud, but because she's healed. And when such a woman enters a relationship, she does not lose herself because she already knows who she is. Refusing to settle is one of the most misunderstood decisions a woman can make, because the world often celebrates speed over wisdom and presence over peace. Yet there are women who looked at options placed before them and sensing their spirit. That acceptance will cause them more than loneliness ever could. This refusal is not arrogance, nor is it unrealistic expectation. It is a quiet strength of discernment, choosing destiny over desperation. Settling usually begins when fear becomes louder than conviction. Fear of time passing, fear of being left behind, fear of explaining one's singleness again and again. And in that fear, many people enter relationships to escape discomfort, not to pursue alignment. But a woman who refuses to settle understands that companionship without peace is punishment, not blessing. She knows that being alone is painful, but being misaligned is destructive. Every woman carries a destiny that requires the right environment to flourish. The wrong relationship can drain vision, dilute passion, and silence potential. That is why discernment becomes a form of self-respect. When a woman says no to what does not align, she's not rejecting love, she's protecting purpose. And purpose is expensive. It cannot survive in careless hands or confused commitments. There are relationships that look good publicly but are chaotic privately. There are men who admire a woman's beauty but resent her strength, who enjoy her support but feel threatened by her growth. Settling for such dynamics slowly erodes confidence. Over time, the woman begins to shrink, adjust, apologize for her ambition, and negotiate her calling. Refusal interrupts this cycle before it begins. Alignment is not perfection, it is direction. Two people aligned may still struggle, but they struggle forward, not against each other. A woman who refuses to settle waits for someone whose values, vision, and spiritual posture can work with hers. This kind of alignment cannot be forced by chemistry alone. It requires patience, clarity, and courage to walk away from what is almost right. Settling often creates cycles of regret that are difficult to break, but refusal creates space for clarity. In that space, God works. He reshapes desires, corrects expectations, and prepares encounters that are not rushed. When alignment finally comes, he feels different. There is peace, not confusion. There is growth, not restriction. There is mutual honor, not silent competition. A woman who refuses to settle is not waiting for perfection. She's waiting for partnership that honors her faith, her values, and her future. She understands that love should add to her life, not reduce it. And because she has learned to stand alone without losing herself, she will only walk with someone who knows how to walk beside her without trying to control, diminish, or replace identity. T.